for this live webinar where we're going to talk about OmniStudio. What is it? Let's do a short introduction so that you know what this suite of tools is and how can you use it with Salesforce and how can you find your position in the ecosystem working with OmniStudio. Thank you for joining us today with saasguru team and me, Diana. I will be your trainer and your instructor. First, a couple of things. This is our agenda for this call. It will be probably less than an hour. We're going to do a short introduction to Salesforce, OmniStudio, how it connects to Salesforce Industries and what Industries is. Then we're going to talk about the OmniStudio architecture, the elements that are available to you to work with OmniStudio, and finish up with some use cases and suggest next steps from me. So, my name is Diana. I live in Sofia, Bulgaria, and I'm a Salesforce enablement consultant or learning and development consultant. I'm 9-time certified All-Star Ranger on Trailhead, which I'm very proud of. I tell everyone about that. I'm also Salesforce certified instructor, and as an enablement expert, I work with companies who are implementing Salesforce, and they want to train their team how to best make use of that tool. What are the hidden things that they can find and be more productive, more efficient, and enjoy work every day. So that's who I am. Now, let me tell you about our hosts. Oops, sorry, I forgot to change my slides. You can contact me on LinkedIn or on Trailblazer, my Trailblazer profile. I'd love to follow you and your journey. And now a little bit more about our host from saasguru. So saasguru is one of my favorite platforms together with Trailhead about learning Salesforce because it gives you tailored suggestions about what to study, what to focus on during exam prep or when you're studying a new topic like flows. It's gamified, which as an All-Star Ranger, I adore. I love gamification. It gives you challenges, badges, everything that you need to feel motivated and to feel like you're progressing while actually progressing. I also love the fact that all of the videos are shorter, so there's no need for you to go through a long an-hour video just to learn something basic, and it's great. But the most powerful thing about saasguru is its community that you're part of, and that provides content like live classes, mentoring, supporting projects, and career. If you haven't checked saasguru, check it out now. The most important part of saasguru, according to me, is the saasguru community. That community is the Slack community. If you're not there, join immediately. We'd love to have you there. This is where you'll find some certification vouchers. Job postings have been rolling along nicely recently. I've seen them. There's some product tips and updates that you can discuss with the community. These live classes are also shared there so that you don't miss one. And there's always help from gurus, people like me who are experienced and are always there to help you and support you in your journey. Also, don't forget to follow the LinkedIn page because this is where you're going to find additional information that's valuable for you. What else? Yes, next important thing is download the saasguru app. I would recommend it. It's in the chat. It makes it even easier than ever to learn on the go, even if you're sitting on the couch instead of scrolling on Instagram or TikTok. Just open the saasguru app and start scrolling there and learning stuff and advancing your career. Now, though that said, let's talk about OmniStudio, right? We're here to talk about OmniStudio. OmniStudio is a tool that I've recently started working with and I'm really excited about. So our goal for this class, my personal goal for you of what to learn is that by the end of it, you will understand how and where OmniStudio fits in the ecosystem. Is there an alternative? What does it do actually? You'll also be able to define the main building blocks of OmniStudio and identify potential use cases for it. Now, one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to be doing development, we're not going to do hands-on exercises. I'll tell you more about this opportunity, about the hands-on and learning more in depth for development at the end of the class. So please stay with us. I promise it will be valuable. Now, moving forward, what is OmniStudio, right? This is the question that we've gathered here to answer. What is OmniStudio? Well, it's an automation tool that's specific for some of the Salesforce Industries cloud that simplifies and accelerates digital transformation. What does that mean? So when businesses want to take some processes, some interaction with the customers online, this is what we call digital transformation. So making it fast and ensuring that it works is the two main things that are relevant. To make sure that it's fast, it also needs to be simple to set up, not take up 8 weeks or 10 months until we get that transformation. So this is an issue that OmniStudio solves for some of the industries. It allows you to connect multiple systems with current and historical data. That means you can connect to your ERP, to any external tool, and to Salesforce data simultaneously. The best thing about it, things that I love as a non-developer, as a consultant, is that it's clicks, not code solution. It's fast, depending on the complexity. Salesforce claims that it's up to 97% faster than doing it with Apex classes. Yes, if it's a complicated something, it can be created really fast, and you're going to see why. The most important thing is that it helps you build guided interactions for internal and external users. And I'm going to show you examples, and I'm sure you're going to figure out some places that you've seen similar guided interactions and think about places that we can implement that. Most important thing for you to remember is that OmniStudio is available to select industry clouds. Okay, so it's not general availability for everyone. You cannot just buy an OmniStudio license and set up everywhere. Which industries it's available in, and what is Salesforce Industries? Salesforce Industries, previously called Velocity, before being acquired by Salesforce, provides cloud solutions for specific industries. So that includes data model, that includes specific pages and tools that are built within that cloud that support those industries. If it has a red outline, thick outline, it means that OmniStudio is available in these industries. I think financial services, manufacturing, and health services include the license of OmniStudio. For automotive, communications, energy, government, and media, you can add it on. And it's soon coming to education clouds too. You can see it's available, but not for everything, even in Salesforce Industries. So that's a product that's currently in development. It's expanding, and the focus is there for you. So OmniStudio is built vertically. It's an out-of-the-box functionality pre-built for the vertical industries that are built on top of the standard Salesforce. Now, let me give you a couple of examples so that we think start thinking more in context and less in abstract. So you can use OmniStudio to create self-service portals. You've probably seen one similar to this one, let's say for energy or for your phone bill, things like this, where you can launch something like create a new appointment for a visitation, make a payment, report an outage, or report how much you've consumed that month, like a self-reporting, see all of your previous invoices, things like this. So this self-service portal can be built with OmniStudio. Another example that I'm going to show you is we can also use OmniStudio tools internally, meaning that we can create, let's say, a support console where the service agent picks up the phone, someone is calling, their data is already in the system, or they manually type it in here on the phone while interacting with the customer, and then all of the information that's relevant for that customer pops up, it's populated, and the agent can guide and can follow these interactions, give the information to the customer real time. So all of this is built with OmniStudio. Next, we have the general idea of what OmniStudio is. Let's see how it actually works so that you see the elements, what it's combining, where it makes sense to use it. and that's what we're going to go through. So for some context, OmniStudio contains a lot of smaller tools inside of it. We're going to talk about OmniScripts, FlexCards, integration procedures, Data Raptor today. There's some developer-specific tools like the IDX Workbench. There's also the Interaction Console, Omni Analytics, and the Project Explorer for additional information about the metadata and grouping it into collections. So the main elements that build the visual side of OmniStudio, what we talk about when we talk about OmniStudio, is FlexCards, OmniScripts, integration procedures, and data raptors. Best part for me is that you don't need any development background when you leverage out-of-the-box features, especially for FlexCards and most of the times OmniScripts. So it allows also business consultants and business people to actually do a lot of things manually and frees up time for the developers. Now, the architecture of OmniStudio has 3 layers. We have the digital experience, which is the part that the user sees, the user interaction. We have service management and developer experience. We're going to talk about the first 2, which is the digital experience and service management. We will focus on FlexCards and OmniScripts, as we said. So FlexCards are just simple elements that contain data and show it in a visual way. You can customize how it looks. You can implement custom CSS. You have a what you see is what you get editor. OmniScripts are visual guided experiences that take us step by step through a business process. Okay, so think about signing up contract for insurance or choosing a new phone, choosing upgrades for something. This is what an OmniScript will achieve. The service management layer is where we have integration procedures and data raptors. So data raptors are a data tool that allows you to get and update Salesforce objects. So get any information, visualize it in the FlexCards or OmniScripts, and then update it according to the changes that these want to submit. Integration procedures are server-side data actions that can use API. Data raptors can be included in them and perform multi-step calculations and more. So this is very advanced. It's very capable. It's a great deal. Integration procedures is wonderful. It can include multiple steps in it. You're going to see how it works. As I said, we're not going to talk about the developer experience, but just so you know, there is the IDX build tool and the IDX Workbench available for developers. Now, a little bit about the architecture. This is how I envision the data experience layer. We have FlexCards or building blocks, and they can be implemented into OmniScripts. Okay, so we have the major square is OmniScripts, where you have the guided experiences, and FlexCards are just a single element that can be added to existing or new OmniScripts. You can also add a FlexCard on a FlexCard, so that could be a nested kind of like child and parent situation. You cannot add OmniScripts to a FlexCard. That's one thing. Same thing with the service management layer. Data raptors are smaller, very handy tools to get the data that you need from specific Salesforce object and related objects. You get the data and you can then push it directly on the FlexCard, on the OmniScript, or include this as a step in an integration procedure where you manipulate and only use the data that's relevant for you. That's important for me, that you can integrate these, implement them, merge them, just something important. FlexCards and OmniScripts uses data from data raptors and integration procedures to visualize contextual information for the record that we're on. It could be an account, it could be a contact, right? So our customer and the data that they have. This is what we use to provide the visually the information here. Now, I'm going to take you through every single one of these 4 elements, and we're going to talk about what it does and look at the builder. We're going to talk about a couple of main elements on that builder so that you have a general understanding and you're not lost when you start working with OmniStudio if you haven't started yet. So first, flex cards, right? So flex cards are a small drag and drop component. Think of it like a Lightning Web component that allows you to display conditional states based on internal or external real-time data. And I'm going to say external real-time as something to focus on here because it's critical. The moment you activate a flex card, it becomes a Lightning Web component. If you have no experience with LWCs, also take a note to look at those. It's a lot faster and simpler to build, hence I can build one, than compared to Lightning Web components, which uses Apex. The good thing about flex cards is that you can expose multi-source data in one screen. Okay, so let's say you use, we're going to talk about integration procedures afterwards, but from an integration procedure, you can get data and expose it from, let's say, Salesforce, SAP, any external tool, Azure, DevOps, something, and then you can expose it, combine it, and show it here. Flex cards can be used in flows, experience builder, Lightning app builder pages, as child flex cards, so within another flex card or within OmniStudio. So when you activate it, it generates the Lightning Web components I told you, and you can choose where it can be available. It can be available anywhere, or you can say, I only want it available for, let's say, app pages. Okay. Something else about flex cards is, I'm going to show you how they look, and we're going to talk about them. Here we have on the page, I'm sorry for the formatting, I'm not a good designer. Here we have on the page 4 different flex cards. We have one flex card that pulls up a case number, like the case information for an account record based on the ID that's filled in. Here we have an account record information where you can see who's the primary contact with a menu to update things like change the main contact, edit the account. Here we have some extra fun flex cards that includes external API to get the weather from an external source and tell us what is the current condition if the customer is calling about something, or maybe weather is affecting their service. And for example, here you have the 4th flex card that just shows a list of all the contact records related to that account. So very simple. You can see we can do drop downs, we can do some formatting. Here we can change colors. This can be in different states. So it can be sunny when it's sunny, it can be alert when the weather is terrible. So this is just a very simple representation of things that you can do with flex cards. Now, let me take you through building a flex card. When you start building a flex card, this is the first thing you're going to see. This is the guided experience, and an OmniScript would look very similar to this. This is like an internal flow of the steps that you have, but let's focus on the flex card. Camel case is recommended when working with OmniStudio because you cannot have spaces in the name and title of the flex card. When you're creating a flex card, you're going to define if that's going to be a child card. The theme, there are 2 themes for CSS, like for the design. We're going to go with the Lightning. There is also another one that's a lot simpler. I'm going to give it an author. You cannot have flex cards that have the same name, title, and author in the system. So these need to be a unique combination. Once you fill that in, you see we have to select the data source type, the data source, and configure some inputs. Let me take you through these steps. Here is what are the data source types that you can use with a flex card. So the data source will be defined at the beginning. You can use SQL queries, you can use Apex, Data Raptor, which is the one that uses internal Salesforce data. You can use integration procedures, which is a very handy tool that does a lot of things. Most of the times you're going to use Data Raptor and integration procedures. If you need more, like this is a situation where you might need to know Apex code or work with a developer that actually has that experience to support you into building that data that you need. Once you select the data source, you're going to go into building the flex card. So in the flex card, you can add, like we've seen flex card, you can add multiple fields so that you have inputs or some of the elements. Those inputs will be fields that you can complete. Let's say you want to update the contact record or an account record. These are the fields that you can include. You can have a toggle, a type ahead. It's a very handy one. It auto-completes with data live. So this is one of my favorites, and it's very versatile and people love it. It ensures that we are efficient. It ensures that, let's say your service agent or your customer can find what they're looking for very fast, and it limits only to the data to the linked record. That's the source. I love it. Something else that's critical for the flex cards is what do we display? So you can see these are the different elements that you can include in visualizing what's on that card. That includes even a custom Lightning Web component that you've generated for something else. You can include it here. You can include another flex card, a child flex card, so one that's activated to be used in others. You can include a table that gets a certain number of records based on what you need, a chart, blocks, actions, a lot of things. You can include text, like writing just a text or adding that menu like we've seen in that previous slide with the drop-down menu, images, icons. So these elements are like your building blocks and you're going to use them. It's a grid structure that you're going to follow. You can change the sizing of elements and it's easy. As I said, I've built flex cards. It's very fun and very easy. I recommend it. Once you're in the flex card builder, this is what you're going to see. To the left-hand side, you're going to see the canvas where you can change the size of the screen to ensure that visualization is correct. You can add, like these are blocks with conditions or states. Based on the condition that you define, a different version of the card will be shown, so a different state. Here we have if the condition equals heavy snow, this one will be shown. The one that's on top will be shown first if the criteria matches. If not, the system will go downstream. You can copy them, so you can duplicate them or delete them easily. And when you expand, you're going to see all of the elements. Here you can see there's some blocks, so you can include multiple blocks. And in those blocks, you can have, let's say, a button, an image, text, fields, all this thing. So this is the left-hand side. The right-hand side is where you're going to do the setup. Build is where you're going to find all of those elements to drag and drop directly there. They're searchable, so you can find them also with their name. You can change the properties and the style of this. Under properties, you'll be defining data or data node. Something that as an OmniStudio developer, you would need to know is JSON. So if you're not familiar with the JSON language, it's very easy. Just, I think there are a couple of videos online that are 10-15 minutes of introduction to JSON, learn about nodes, learn about the data, how to structure it, how to troubleshoot it, and you're ready to go. This is what you're going to see in the Flex Card Builder. And what you're going to use to create these visual cards. Okay, you can see this is the state of the card that we've seen previously in flex card demos. That was showing the bad weather. Let's see, severe weather alert. This is, so there is heavy snow. So because the condition is heavy snow, we're seeing this one. Go back to show you condition heavy snow. Now, let's talk about OmniScripts. Now, OmniScripts are my favorite. I do have a favorite. OmniScripts are my favorite. So OmniScripts help you build multi-step guided paths to ensure that the process is followed correctly by the user. So let's say we're an insurance company and we want to make sure that when a customer wants to sign a new policy, wants to add, let's say, a new card to their policy or change address, they're following the correct steps and we're not asking them to submit all of the information that we already have for them. Okay, so that's critical. And these OmniScripts allow us to get the data that we need, to conditionally show the next step based on what the customer has selected previously, and ensure a very smooth experience for both users and agents if we're working with service agents that are doing it. You can nest flexcards and other OmniScripts within this script if needed. So it starts, it goes into a different script. You can launch different scripts from within. It pops up, you can have a flyout. It's wonderful. You can use here integration procedures also, as well as data wrappers and everything. You can use integration procedures to get and update the data modified by the user. So it's not just taking a list of what the user wants, but it's automatically syncing those changes. And the most exciting thing is you can sign documents, generate documents, sign documents, and sync them with DocuSign. And here we're talking also about an internal user selecting the different quote templates, selecting different elements, or uploading a template for a quote, and then the system generating it with the customer's information. It's an extra layer of OmniStudio and OmniScript that's super cool and more advanced, and you're going to learn about it if you start learning about OmniStudio. Now, OmniScripts, how do they look? Here is a very simple OmniScript that is showing an arrow just so I can show you the things that it can do. It looks just like a guided flow, right? So a multi-step flow. We have the steps to the right. You can choose to show or hide them. You can choose custom names for the steps. You can add information for the user. Like you can add some suggestions and text to support the user. To the left, we have this radio button option. And depending on which radio button is selected, a different section will open underneath to facilitate the change. So for example, if you want to change the primary contact for this account, we're going to start typing the contact name. A type ahead block is going to show us already available contacts from that account record. We can select one and then choose to update your email or name if needed. We can also update the primary contact record by just changing their name, email, or create a new primary contact record. Whatever you check, you select, a different option is going to appear underneath, so you can think about different implementation for it. Let's say you're selecting a new computer. Do you want 13-inch or 15-inch screen? Things like this. So these are the guided interactions. The cool thing is that these radio buttons can also be represented with icons. So the end user will see icons and not radio buttons. So how do we build an OmniScript? So this is the OmniScript builder. To the left, you have the navigation, which can be like just buttons or the other one. And you can see each name, the names of each step. And then when you click, it's going to navigate to that step and expand it, just so you know you are editing the correct step and section of the step. Like these are blocks in a step. Okay. These are the steps. To the right, we have an integration procedure to get account primary contact details, integration procedure to get weather forecast, all these things. We have steps for the user to complete, step 1, step 2. We have some extra fun things that we can do with OmniScript builders. So we can set some values, check for errors, and then if there are errors, show those errors and let the user know that they have not completed something and they have to go back, let's say, to step 2 to complete it. After all this is completed, you have another integration procedure to save that primary contact details that you changed, updated, or created a new one. Right, so that integration procedure, for example, can have 3 different data wrappers that update the primary contact. And then you can end with a navigate action, which just tells, as soon as the OmniScript is complete and you close finish, where does it take us? It takes us, for example, to an account page, so to a record page, to a console page, so that the user or the service agent can have a very good way to go back and say, okay, do you need some more help with that? Anything else that I can support you in today? What are you going to see in the OmniScript builder, right? Because this is critical. So you have different elements so in the build tab, you're going to see the visual elements that you can drag and drop on the steps, right? So you have drag and drop on Omni step, inputs, groups, functions, displays, actions. So although actions will be kind of like what we've seen, actions and displays, we've seen them in the flex card, like text or fields too that can be updated, right? Actions can be a button or something else. Functions, you can create functions, and formulas can be included, grouping stuff, and all of this in more detail. You can learn about it going soon. The saasguru OmniStudio developer course that is expected to launch in the next month. I'm going to tell you more about it later. Next up, you have properties, where you can update the button properties, error messages, conditional view, all of these steps. Okay, and this is specifically for each step, right? This is for a step that is with an input. We also can allow to save for later. That will create an extra record within Salesforce so that when the customer returns, they have this saved and they can continue with their application, for example, for your university or something like that. And finally, we have the setup where you can choose how the step chart looks. Cancel options, save options, all these options are in there. So the best part about it is that it's very straightforward. You build element by element, you know what's the step after each other. And it can simplify things a lot, especially compared to flows, I would say. I personally find it easier, maybe because it has this very nice interface that's working great for developers, for non-developers. Okay, this is for OmniScript. I definitely recommend that you dive into it, enjoy it, get hands-on experience, then take the course by saasguru about OmniStudio developers, for OmniStudio developers. It is a great tool to have in your box. Next, very quickly about data raptors. So data raptors are, as we said, mapping tools used to read, transform, and write Salesforce data. What does that mean? So if we want to expose the related accounts, contacts, we use data raptor because it's the fastest and easiest. It's going to do it fast, it's efficient. We don't need to go into an integration procedure and do some complicated, convoluted procedure. You have 4 types of data raptors. We have data raptor turbo extract, which will only extract data from a single object. Okay, you can extract, for example, from an account or from a contact. Then you have the extract that can extract from multiple Salesforce objects and their related objects. You have load, which is when you've changed something and you want to update it in Salesforce. And transform, which is used, let's say we have data, we want to change the way it's presented, so that we use a data raptor transform to change some fields to appear in a different way. Think about it, for example, in fields internally in our Salesforce org have one name, but when the user sees them in, let's say, the experience, their digital experience or their portal, we want to show a different label, right? Show it in a different way. This is when you're going to use transform. Data raptors can be used directly in FlexCards and OmniScripts. They can be used as part of an integration procedure. The thing is that they can be reused. So once you create one, you can use it in all of the FlexCards and multiple OmniScripts. It doesn't interfere. The other cool thing is that, for example, if you use data raptor extract, that extracts from, let's say, account and contact records, you can just select use one of the nodes in that JSON script to use for FlexCards. So for example, we have the same export extract account information that would extract account and contact, but for some FlexCards, we only show contacts and for others only accounts. It's cool, it's fast, and it's like a very simple building block for everything. You can also use formulas if needed. Only in Turbo Extract, you cannot use formulas. That's the most simple one. And most often you're going to use formulas in the data raptor transforms. Now, how do we build a data raptor? Well, we start by giving it a name, selecting the interface type. So extract, turbo, load, transform. And then you're going to select the input type and the output type. So here you can use JSON, XML, or custom. For a standard FlexCard or OmniScript, you're going to need JSON. This is the one thing. FlexCards are powered by JSON data. So if you have the JSONs, you're going to be fine. Next, when you go into the builder, like this is data raptor, interface type is extract. So the one that has all of the tabs, that's why I've selected it. You can see input and output type, a description, and then you have the different tabs. You have an extract tab where you define which object we're extracting and what is the output path. So we want to extract based on the account ID to get information. You can put some formulas. You have the outputs, options, and previews. So after we have extracted the account, so for example, the FlexCard feeds us the account ID and it tells us, hey, this is the account ID. We get that information. And based on that, what do we get to expose? Well, we define which fields should be included in the JSON. For example, here we want to get the company mailing address. So we're going to have the shipping, city, country, postal code, state, and street. We select the fields in the record, and then we link them to the names in the output path. It's automatically generated. You can either click here with the plus sign to create one by one or go for a quick match. Next, let me see. This is all that we have on data raptors. Yes. In the preview, what you can do in the preview is if you're creating a data raptor for a FlexCard or an OmniScript, they also have a preview tab where you can see the JSON script that is being executed. Copy that one, put it here, and see in practice if it's going to export the correct data. You'll be able to see that in the preview, run tests, input different IDs for the records, and see if you have correctly configured your data raptor. Okay, they're very simple. These ones are cool, they're simple, they're easy to use. Next, the integration procedures. They are declarative server-side processes that execute multiple actions in a single server cell. Okay, so you can do multiple things. They're very optimized, they're fast, they're efficient. They have a drag and drop builder, we're gonna see it. It minimizes the client server codes. It handles multiple data sources, unlike the data raptors that only handle Salesforce. So you can combine multiple data sources into one. And you've seen in the OmniScript where you have one integration procedure, a second integration procedure, and all of this fits into the OmniScript or the FlexCard that's in that OmniScript and is populated with the correct data. You can reuse an integration procedure across different FlexCards or OmniScripts, and you can only use the section of the data that is relevant. Okay, so you don't need to use all of the fields that are included in the data, just use what you need. And this is something that I really like about OmniStudio is create one, create the most common data raptors and integration procedures you need, and then use them across multiples. Use OmniScripts across multiple places. Use FlexCards or child FlexCards, all of these things. Integration procedures improve performance and flexibility. They take up to 97% less time and effort to build than an Apex class with high complexity. Now, that is debatable, right? We have to see also what Einstein GPT can do with writing Apex classes, but it's an easier to use tool. So I'm going to show you how to build an integration procedure, how the builder looks. Okay, I'm not an expert on building them yet. So The integration procedures builder is again a drag and drop builder. Okay, so you can see it, it's drag and drop. Most of these things will start with a drag and drop where you can define the structure by selecting groups or actions. So actions are, let's say we always start with the procedure configuration, and we always have a response action. The configuration is the name, the type, things like this. Then you can drag and drop here any of these actions. So it can be a chatter action, so post something on chatter. It can be an email action, delete some action. You know, there are a lot of things that can happen here. You can set values and then nest a lot of elements that are happening within this integration procedure before moving forward. There are also the groups that you can have some conditional blocks. So depending on the input where we have the radio button, if the radio button is selected as this, when that step was being taken, then do this, then execute this data raptor, for example. If it's update, execute data raptor update. If it's change, execute data raptor change, things like this. So you don't have to have different data raptors in that OmniScript. You just put it in the integration procedure and that conditional block is going to take care of it. The loop block is going to do that. It's going to loop and update all of these to get the information from all of the, let's say, related records and show it to you. This is a bit more advanced, I'd say, for people who are not developers, but you have properties and then you have preview when you have a data step that allows you to test the code, test the integration, and you basically need to know a couple of things. For data raptors, and you need to have the correct send response transformations, like are we sending JSON path, response JSON path, JSON node, or response JSON node, right? So there are some elements that you need to know here. The input parameters need to be input. So what is the data source? It's critical that the value and the data source, like account ID, record ID, things like this, are written the same where in the FlexCard OmniScript integration procedure, like anywhere you're defining that variable, it has to have that same name, same way it's written out. So that's very specific about integration procedures. Now, as I said, I'm not a developer. I'm not an expert on the system layer, but I hope this all was a good introduction to what is OmniStudio, what's part of it, and what are the main elements that you can use when creating flex cards, flows, guided experiences with OmniStudio. Okay, any questions? I'll be happy to answer them. If not, we're going to proceed to our suggested use cases. So, like, let's think about context. Where can we use OmniStudio in real life? Okay. How widespread is use of OmniStudio in today? Well, if an org or a company is using Salesforce Industries, it would be spread. Yes, they're going to want to use OmniStudio to create guided experiences for the users. It is also a skill that's very in demand. If you just search for OmniStudio consultant, OmniStudio developer, like LinkedIn, anywhere that you have job postings, you'll find that these positions are in demand because there are not a lot of people who have that skill. It takes a little bit of time. OmniStudio has been released for Salesforce standard objects just recently. There was OmniStudio for Velocity, which is the older version. People are being moved over to the new version, so there will be constantly a new need for developers and people who understand it. If you are working or you plan to work in a specific industry, let's say you have experience in the banking sector, you've developed things for the banking sector, you've consulted in that sector, and you want to transfer these skills into Salesforce, you're going to need to know OmniStudio as a consultant as well as a developer. Why do I say as a consultant? Because you need to be able to guide people through, oh, this is a good use case for an OmniStudio solution, or no, this is something that's happening in the background that should be a flow because it will be automatically triggered as well, considering that flex cards and OmniScripts are usually like person triggered. I think it's growing, the need for OmniStudio. We see a lot of demand. I've personally checked to see what else can be done. Now, as I said, I want to give you a couple of examples of where OmniStudio can be used in a real life scenario so that you can start thinking about, okay, once I understand how OmniStudio works, before even going to the certification, because certifications are not everything. They're just there to show that you have the skill. And I always recommend that you have experience when going for it. But if you go on an interview and people ask you, we're this type of company, how do you envision OmniStudio can work for us? I got you. So I have 5 use cases that we're going to go through. I know we're probably almost over time, but we're going to go through them. One recommendation I can have is take a screenshot of the use cases to ensure that you can come back to them afterwards and they're going to be helpful for you. So remember just to practice ideas of how am I going to build this. Okay, use case number 1. We have an insurance company who wants to offer a self-service portal for their customers. So I'm already their customer. I have my login where for you, the technical recommendation is the portal needs to rewrite Salesforce data and update the billing software and their custom invoicing software, as well as reach out via API to check previous claims in another system. So we have 4 different systems, right? So it's taking information from multiple places. So as an end user, I will see the following things. I can view my active policies, their upcoming billing date for renewals, things like this. I can choose to sign up for a new product or cancel my existing products. I can submit a claim and track it. So there are just 5, 6 things that I can do as an insurance customer, right? And you as a developer need to think about how do you implement this? How do you ensure this goes with in the backend? It's very easy to do it with OmniScript and consider a lot of these things like this information. You can start building it with just a random data, that's templated data to use. It's provided in the developer edition of the Salesforce org that includes OmniStudio, so you don't have to worry about that. Just think about building these cards, which of these are cards and which of these are OmniScript. So for example, if I want to view my active policies, yes, Mohammed, it will be a flex card. It doesn't need any interaction. It doesn't need any guidance. Compared to signing up for a new product or cancel an existing, that will be a process that needs to be followed, right? As well as submitting a claim. So when you have multi-step processes that need to be followed, all of this will be OmniScript. So you have some flex cards, you have some OmniScript, and it's a combination of both. Next, use case number 2. University is planning to handle enrollment online via custom portal. It will be integrated with financial support data from a third-party provider. Okay, so here we have, yes, it's internal data in Salesforce, but we'll also be needing external data from that third-party provider. Want to handle it on a portal. Students will be able to upload their documents, complete enrollment form with a save for later option. You can see this would be an OmniScript. Check the enrollment status. That can easily be like a small visual element with different icons compared to their based on conditionally showing based on their status, and review financial support options that are recommended based on their personal information. Okay, so this is very powerful. You can see these use cases show you things that you can do. Use case number 3. Take a screenshot if you want to work on it afterwards. A communications company wants to offer full self-service portal for their customers. It will read-write data in their legacy systems as well as Salesforce. So communication companies have a lot of legacy systems. That's one thing we know. So this is something that we as consumers can think about. You can view your invoices, pay your invoices. change your plan by adding add-ons, selecting add-ons, viewing your custom discounts, things like this. You can sign up for a new product, purchase a new phone, and get a custom offer for yourself based on the bills that you had in the past 12 months. So what is your discount going to be? What free phone you can get? So all of this can be done with OmniStudio for some custom offers and some very custom and specific things. You're going to need to use the business process engine, which is not OmniStudio. It's another add-on to Salesforce that used together with OmniStudio makes OmniStudio super powerful. But we're not going to be talking about it today because it will be another hour. So use case number 2, we have 2 more. Let's scroll to them fast. We have a car manufacturing company that provides resellers with the option to customize and order the cars that they want. So you go, you ask for a quote on the car, and the reseller is going to go through a flow or script, or to choose the model and the extras with the visual, with the images for each of the colors, right? The images for the rims, images for the leather, for the seats, things like this. They're going to see the recommended pricing. So they're going to see something like recommended price and lowest that you can offer. You can review the leasing and financing offers to suggest to the customer based on your region, the companies, the banks that they work with. Keep track of all the orders and the expected delivery dates, and get custom recommendations for upsell, upgrades, and extra services to offer to the customer that's here. They're through the door and they're willing to pay, right? So you can see this is a very powerful thing. And finally, final use case, take a screenshot of that one too. A healthcare provider wants to track all details about their patients. So they will have the following elements like historical data from internal and external systems, like lab results, the suggested treatments maybe, or previous ideas or previous treatments for the customer based on similar lab results, track insurance claims and respond accordingly, and email patients with their lab result and suggested treatments, as well as reminders for upcoming appointments. So emails, you can remember in the integration procedure, there was this email step. So a lot of things that can happen. Now, these were 5 use cases. I